Hello, everyone. Welcome. So we're going to give people a couple minutes to start to filter in. It's good to see all of you. This is our last one in this series. I can't believe January is already coming to a close. That's crazy. I don't know where it goes. The time just flies. The older I get, the faster it goes. All right. Nope. Let a few more people in. Awesome. So how's everyone doing tonight? If you can put in the chat where you are from, that would be really fun because I'm seeing some names that I haven't seen before, which is really exciting. And I'd love to hear where you're from and how you heard about this. Ooh, we have someone from Texas who heard about us from their sister-in-law. Nice. Welcome. Is your sister-in-law from Connecticut? Yes. Okay. Excellent. Welcome. I'm so glad that you found us and that you're here. How fun. Okay. I think you might be the furthest. Let's see, is more people. Let me let a few more people in. Okay. Yeah, so if you haven't seen the previous webinars, please take the time to go back. Since you registered for this, then you have access to all the previous recordings as well. So please go back and watch those. I think you'll really enjoy them because they all build on each other. And I think they're all equally as helpful. So, okay. So tonight, I'm going to go ahead and get started. People will continue to filter in, and that's okay. So if you see me kind of pausing and hesitating, it's because I'm letting people in. I'll try to do it discreetly. You know, unfortunately, I don't have the staff to have tech help during this yet. Someday, right? Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about, in the last in our webinar series, eating healthy simplified. So I want to make sure that I take all of the complications out of it. Like, so many people get so confused and bogged down by all the latest trends and dietary recommendations when really it's quite simple. So I'm going to distill that down, tell you what exactly you need, how you can focus on it, how you can make it the easy choice instead of it being the hard choice every night. Because I know at the end of the day, you're tired, and the last thing you want to do is to be having that one more decision to make about what to make, and then having to make it and do dishes and all of that stuff. It adds up and it becomes exhausting. So I get that. I get why people, especially at the end of the day, start to make poor choices. So hopefully we're able to help you problem solve that and overcome that. Okay, so tonight I wanted to talk to you. We're going to do a really quick review about what we've gone over so far. So those of you who haven't participated in the previous webinars, you kind of have a glimpse of what we talked about, but also to check in with all of you that have watched them and have started to implement some of that. I really want to find out how that's going. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about what makes a food healthy, what your body actually needs. So we're going to, break through all of that diet culture garbage and drill down to what exactly is nourishing your body. And then how to simplify making those crave-worthy foods that support your health, and some action steps for you. I always leave you guys with some action steps. So, you don't have to apply all of them. It can be, pick and choose. I leave you with multiple, not because I expect you to do all of them, but because everyone has different needs or at different places, and some might seem easy to some, and some might be overwhelmingly challenging to others. So if you can just choose one to focus on, that would be excellent. Okay. So where are you in the journey? Got a couple more people. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Okay, where are you in this journey? So over the past 4 weeks, we've had a lot of discussion about breaking free of diet culture. What does it mean to actually be healthy? How can we prioritize our health without falling into the traps of diet culture? So the first week, we talked about breaking free of the diet culture, practicing body neutrality and positivity. Have any of you been successful in? Oh, yes. I see a lot of overwhelming positive responses to that. Okay. So so the trend seems to be that neutrality is where you guys are at, like that you're focusing on that instead of body positivity, and that you found that very helpful. So good. That's really good. People think that they have to jump from loathing their body and punishing their body to, when people talk about body positivity, they think they have to make this gigantic leap into somehow falling in love with their body. And it's not realistic. We've been so conditioned to torture our bodies and hate our bodies for every little thing that we think is not perfect. So moving to neutrality is a huge move in the right direction. So if you can do that, that's amazing. Have you introduced any new tiny habits? The ones that have been here the past couple of weeks, you've talked, some of you have started that, and I'm curious if that has continued or if you've hit any blocks, barriers. Again, these habits are supposed to be tacked onto things that come easily, that are just a part of your daily routine that you don't ever even have to think about. Okay. So we do have quite a few people that have managed to do that. So we have one person that's begun sleeping in their exercise clothes. So they feel that they have to work out in the morning before they change. So that is a technique. You can do that if your exercise clothes are comfortable. Not everyone feels comfortable sleeping in them, but great strategy. I love it, because you're definitely sleeping, right? That's a habit that you're doing, I hope. And if you have to change out of your workout clothes to shower before you even worked out, then that can be guilt inducing. Yes. Yeah. So she's also, so those of you who are watching the recording, she's tagged on that the guilt is too much. So even if she does 5 minutes on the treadmill, that's a great strategy. I love it. Not that I want anyone to ever feel guilty, but to make it the easy choice again, right? Like we're going to talk about tonight with the healthy eating, making things the easy choice is the way to go. All right. So have any of you begun to focus on your mental health? We talked about that last week. And how it's all connected. The body and the mind cannot be separated. They are one and the same. And the fact that our culture likes to create a divide with them and have you focus on one and not the other is quite ridiculous. So, yes. Oh, we have someone that's started meditation. How's that going? Can you tell us how that's going? It's a struggle. Okay. Yeah, I can remember when I first started meditating, my mind goes 100 miles an hour constantly. And I always have like 1,000 different things swirling in my head at the same time. And I really struggled with that, focus on your breathing. And then I would feel like I was hyperventilating, and like even just the breathing part was a struggle. And then I thought that my mind had to be like completely empty and blank. I didn't understand. So for those of you who are starting a meditation practice, it's okay to have thoughts. You're never going to stop having thoughts. At least I won't. I don't know. Maybe there's some of you that will, but I will never stop having thoughts. And so the idea is to let the thoughts come in, but not to spiral in with them, and to just observe them and watch them pass by, like have them come and have them go. Don't put any weight on them. Don't put value on them. Don't put judgment on them. Just let it pass. That is a meditation practice. Okay. So I'm glad that you're doing that. That's wonderful. Okay. And some of you have begun to introduce some of the foods that I suggested in that. That's great. Okay. And again, those are not quick fixes. So you probably aren't seeing results from that as of now. So, that's something that you have to stick with. Okay. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. Okay. So just so that we're all on the same page for what is healthy, because there are a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of falsehoods out there. So what actually makes something healthy? Healthy foods are those that provide you with nutrients that you need to sustain your body's well-being and to retain energy. So your water, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, and minerals are those key nutrients that make up a healthy, balanced diet. Okay. So you want to have them, and we'll go over like what that looks like in a little bit. But I just wanted to point out this one thing that's super important. Oh, we've got someone coming in a little bit late. Okay. Welcome. I'm so glad that you made it. Yes. Nope. Don't feel bad about being late. We are just so glad to have you here. That's wonderful. Okay. So the but is that oftentimes these healthy foods are rooted in classism and racism, that label of healthy. So we need to really be aware of our implicit biases with foods. Now, some of you might be like, what is she talking about? And a healthy food is a healthy food. How does it have anything to do with classism and racism? Well, we tend to hyper focus on certain foods, and there might be a million reasons why, but I'm going to just plant a seed. No pun intended, but that was good. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a second. And I want you to pay attention to the first thought that comes to mind, or the first image that comes to mind when I say kale. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Whatever came to your mind when I said that. So we've got some gross, we've got some chewy. Okay, now we're getting to it. So we have some people that have put wealthy food, snobby food. Okay, fad. All right, so kale is actually one of my favorites. I do love kale, but it is very trendy, right? Like, how did all of a sudden kale become so wildly popular and so put up on this pedestal as being this healthy food, like this icon of health? How did that happen? And it's like one of those foods that is mostly only accessible to wealthier families. All right, now I want you to close your eyes again, and we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to say a different word. Collard greens. Okay, so I want you to put in the chat first thing that came to your mind. Okay, Southern. Again, we have some yuck. Never tried it. Okay. So typically most people will think of collard greens as like kind of like a poor man's version of kale. And yet they're almost identical in terms of nutritional value and the way that they grow and their abundance. Actually, both kale and collard greens are very abundant to grow, right? But why is it that kale is typically in, at the farmer's market and collard greens typically are not? And it's because of that association. We associate collard greens with a poor man's food, and it's not necessarily put up on this pedestal as healthy when it is the equivalent to kale. So I just want you to keep that in mind of the things that you associate with being healthy. That may be a story or a version that someone else has planted. And there may be foods that you actually eat that maybe, or that you have avoided because you thought they were not the best choices, or whatever the story may be, that could be equally as healthy. So I just want you to be aware of that. Again, the media tends to shift things the way that they want you to see it. Okay. And this is another example. Many of you may have seen this before. This is my plate. So it's the USDA, our government dietary guidelines. When I was growing up, we had the food pyramid. I don't know how many of you register with that, the food pyramid. And for several reasons, I do not prefer this. And so when I'm working with people, I tend to bring up this, which is the Harvard plate, healthy plate. I'm sure you are all familiar with Harvard University. This is the version that they came up with. And I would love to see your reaction, why you think I do that, what your impression is of these two plates. Okay, well, someone is saying that there's more explanation on the Harvard plate. Correct, there is. And to be fair, if you go to myplate.gov, there is equally as much information and breakdown on their website. So the image that I grabbed doesn't have that. But to be fair, they do have that as well. Okay, so some of you have pinpointed it, the water versus dairy, and then the lack of fats being included on my plate. So that is exactly correct. So most of it looks the same, but the inclusion of dairy is a very political move. We actually do not need dairy to be healthy. We can choose dairy. It's not that dairy is unhealthy. It is just that it is not necessary. And it excludes, actually having that as a dietary guideline excludes a large population for both religious reasons or personal reasons or dietary restriction reasons, right? There's a lot of people that are allergic to dairy. There's a lot of people that do not consume dairy for religious reasons. There's a lot of people that don't consume dairy for personal reasons. They choose to be vegan for a variety of reasons. And so that actually takes a huge number of people and others them and tells them that they're not eating healthy then because they're not following the dietary guidelines. And that's just not true. The reason that dairy is a healthy option is for the calcium and the protein. And those can be got in an abundance in other sources. You don't have to consume dairy. And actually, most people do not consume enough water. It is much better advised to tell people to drink water as their beverage. We do not get enough water. And a lot of people are chronically dehydrated. And we should be encouraging people to consume water, to get used to that at a young age so that they're not gravitating towards calorie dense or sugary drinks. Okay. And then your healthy oils, your brain, a lot of your bodily functions, the health of your skin, your hair, your nails, your eyes, all are dependent on oils, your fats. And the biggest thing that you need fat for is your brain. Your brain needs to have fat in order to make those neural connections. You need to have fat in your brain to function and think properly and to continue to learn and grow. So the type of fat matters. You want to make sure that it's unsaturated fat, some saturated fat, but not too much saturated fat, and to stay completely away from trans fats. Okay, does anyone have any questions on this, like what it is that you should be consuming, what your plate looks like? Obviously, your plate isn't, things aren't going to be divided that evenly all the time, but just to have an awareness of like how much of everything you should be consuming. Notice that more than half the plate, well, not more than half the plate is fruits and vegetables, and more than a quarter of that half is your vegetables. So really the biggest focus of your meals should be your vegetables. That should be the largest volume of consumption of your food should be from vegetables. All right, so this is another thing that a lot of people tend to believe when they come to me and they are working with me, is that calories are the most important ingredient. And that is so false. It is so false. This is something that diet culture has ingrained in us, that you always look at the calories and you want to, eat a low calorie diet and, calories in, calories out, all of that stuff, and that you should just be obsessed about calories. And that is not true. If you are eating a well-balanced diet and you are nourishing your body the way that it needs to be nourished, and you are paying attention to the messages that it is sending you for the other needs that it has, the calories will not matter. Your body will tell you when it's had enough, when it needs more. Your body is incredible at adjusting. So if there is a shortage in calories, if you are restricting and you're trying to buy into the diet culture, you're trying to lose weight and you're restricting calories and exercising more, a few things happen. One, your energy levels drop because your body is conserving energy because it is extremely efficient. Your body is amazing. It is so incredible at how it knows how to keep you alive. It might not make the best choices for your long-term health, but in the immediate survival, it absolutely is spot on and super helpful. So what it does is it adjusts, it makes you feel lethargic. It encourages you to sit around, have less movement, less motivation for exercise, and it will continually bombard you with feelings of wanting high energy foods because it is driving you for survival. Okay, so this is why diet culture doesn't work, because you're working against everything that your body needs for survival. And then all your functions will also slow to conserve as well, because your number one function that it wants to preserve is your brain function and your ability to have a spurt of energy should danger arise. Okay. If you start consuming more calories, okay, your body again will adjust. This is where it gets tricky. So if you are consuming the right kind of food that fuels your body and gives you energy, then your energy levels will go up. You will be more inclined to be more active. If you are fueling your body with empty calories or calories that maybe provide a burst of energy, like high sugar foods or things that don't provide a lot of nutrients for long-term sustained energy, but just give you a quick spurt, those are actually going to work against you. So this is where we get into trouble with like weight gain, because yes, there are certain types of calories that will encourage your body to gain weight because it puts you on this roller coaster of hormone outputs that we don't have time to get into today, but I just wanted to illustrate to you the importance of not focusing on calories so much when you are trying to be healthy. That's not what is important. Okay, so we want to focus on the My Plate. We want to focus on nutrients, but often the pushback I get is, but unhealthy foods like those empty calorie foods are the ones that taste good, right? I get that all the time. I understand. But I would encourage you to start really paying attention, being intentional, being mindful. What is it about those foods that you really enjoy? Okay, really hone in on that. Is it the flavor? Is it the texture? Is it the appearance? Is it how it makes you feel? Okay, so be mindful before, during, and after eating that. How does it make you feel? Is it making you feel loved? Is really the word. Like, does it give you that serotonin boost? Like, does it make you feel good for a little bit? How about an hour later? How do you feel an hour after eating it? Does that drop off? Do you feel worse? Do you feel just as good? Really pay attention to how you are feeling, because it might not actually be that the food tastes so good. It might be an initial surge of serotonin that you're getting that your body and your mind become kind of addicted to. And if you can recreate that with healthier foods, then you're going to have long-term success. Okay. So, and you can also recreate flavor, texture, appearance. All of those things are things that are in your control. You can control that and make your healthier options do the same thing for you. It's just going to take some little investigating what works for you. What are those triggers for you that makes things have that feel good for you? I don't have time to cook. I get that. I mentioned that in the beginning. So if you don't have time to cook, I would argue that it's probably not so much that you don't have time to cook, because the length of time that it takes to heat up a frozen dinner or to call for takeout, to go pick up takeout, all those things, those require time and energy as well. So it really is just the mental fatigue of having to decide what's for dinner and feeling like you have to then get up and do one more thing. Like, you have to decide, then you have to make it, and then you have to clean up from it. So that in itself seems overwhelming and exhausting. So here's some quick tips for you. Stock your pantry with quick, easy ingredients. Invest in tools, if you can, that are going to save you time. My two number one go-tos are my Instapot and my mini waffle iron. I use them all the time. You can find recipes on our university. So where you have found this course, you can also find others for recipes. All of them are free at this point. So you can go ahead and check those out. We have meals in less than 30 minutes. It's a whole segment. And I'm adding to them pretty much weekly, as often as I can. And doubling your recipes for leftovers. So when you do have time to cook, time and energy to cook, double that so that you can put some in aside for another night, put it in the freezer for another meal. And it doesn't have to be an exact replica. Like, a lot of people get hung up on leftovers. They don't want to eat the same thing all the time. But you can turn one dinner, like let's say you had some chicken breast and salad and, I don't know, potatoes one night or something. Let's just try to keep it simple. If you made extra chicken, you can then the next night cut that up with some extra peppers and onions that you cut up from your salad. and make some quick fajitas. You just heat it up with some spices really, really quick. It'll take you like 5 minutes. And you have fajitas. Super simple and super popular recipe. I would also encourage you to create a idea list. Maybe it's a weekly rotating schedule of like, if you know that Mondays and Wednesdays are the 2 days that you absolutely never have time to cook, you're exhausted, whatever, you work late, whatever the case may be, maybe you have things ready to go on those days. Or if you know that there's days that maybe it's every day that you're just going to have fatigue, decide ahead of time what those meals are going to be and make sure you have the ingredients to do it, and encourage other people to come into the kitchen and help you. So I know it can seem overwhelming to involve your children if you have children in the kitchen, and especially at a long day, but I promise the reward for that will be incredible, because in just a couple years after having them help you in the kitchen, someday you'll be able to sit in the living room on the couch with your feet up while your child makes dinner. So it's super important. If you're not ready to take that on, enroll them in a class with me. I'd love to have them. I'd love to teach them how to cook so that you can have those nights off. We work with kids as young as 6 years old. So we have our Growing Healthy Kids that are from 6 to 9 year olds. We have our home fries for homeschool kids ages 7 to 13. And we have our Junior Chef, which is a more intensive culinary program for ages 10 to 13. Plan ahead. So like I said, find the recipes that you're excited about. Base your shopping on those recipes, and don't ever shop when you're hungry. You'll end up with all kinds of things that you didn't want or need. And be realistic about your time and your commitment and your availability. Okay, so really, what is your realistic commitment look like? And lowball it, because I want you to be successful. So if it's just that, for this week, 1 day a week, instead of getting takeout, you are going to cook a meal. That's great. That is one more day that you weren't doing before. And maybe you can make that, since you're taking the time to do it, you can double it. So then it becomes 2 days, right? So try to do mini stretches like that and really make it something that you can achieve. Okay. Because when we have success, it breeds more success. When we take on something and we fail, it tends to leave us feeling not good enough, and we give up and we don't continue. So I really want you to be successful with this. So, okay. So tip 2, keep that well-stocked pantry for faster than takeout meals. I will be putting up a webinar just on this. Hopefully it won't be in February, but probably in March. So you can be on the lookout for that. So how to stock your kitchen so that and some simple recipes that you can make just using dried or canned beans. If you have an Instapot, having dried beans is great, because the Instapot, you can make a huge batch of beans in just 20 minutes, which normally dried beans take days and takes overnight, and then you have to cook them, and it can take a really long time. In the Instapot, it's just 20 minutes. And I think they taste better than the canned, but canned works as well. And having rice on hand, pasta, oats, spices, and seasonings that you like. So you are in control of how you are seasoning all of your recipes. So figure out what it is that you like and have that in abundance on hand, okay? Frozen veggies are awesome to have, make mealtime super quick, and highly nutritious, because these are vegetables that are frozen at the peak of freshness. So not like the fresh ones that you get in the grocery store when they're picked before they're really ripe, because they have to be shipped and they sit on the shelves and stuff. So frozen, it's not like that. They flash freeze it at the peak of freshness. So Sometimes frozen is even the best choice. So having some nuts and seeds on hand, broths, coconut milk, and dried fruit. Those are all awesome options that are shelf stable and you can have readily available whenever you have a night that you just need to throw something together. You throw together some seasoning that you like with some frozen veggies and some rice, and you have an awesome stir fry. Okay. Practicing mindfulness. This is a really important exercise to do to connect with your body. What is your body trying to tell you? It's not always hunger for food. It can be hunger for other things like we talked about last week. So are you physically hungry or are you emotionally hungry? That's an important distinction to make. And it doesn't mean that you deny yourself food if you are feeling emotionally hungry, but it is a good thing to identify so that you're not riddled with guilt and shame after you eat. Because if you recognize it and you give yourself permission to eat something that you think is going to bring you some sort of emotional joy, that is okay. Food can do that for us, and that is a wonderful gift. So be intentional about it. Okay. Recognize that that is why you're eating. Checking in with what is it that my body needs or desires right now. Your body is really wise and it will tell you what it needs if you listen. And this is a practice that takes a really long time to perfect. And it's really good to work alongside someone who is knowledgeable in nutrition, because then they can tell you, like, there's certain things like, so for example, I don't crave sweet things so much. I crave salty things. And there's a couple things that I know about my body as to why that happens. One, I am a runner and I tend to run with, I have low blood pressure on the lower end of normal. So between the sweating out my electrolytes and lower blood pressure, sometimes my body sends me the signal that it's craving potato chips. I love potato chips. And what I have found is that when my body sends me that signal, it's not necessarily the potato chips that I am craving, but it is the sodium. My body is lacking sodium and it needs it. And so by being in tune with that, I can then shift to make healthier choices that fulfill that need, but also fulfill that desire. Does that make sense? So I know that celery is both crunchy, because sometimes potato chips fill other needs too. If you're stressed out, it's that crunch as well as the sodium, because when you're under stress, your adrenals kick in and your adrenals need sodium in order to run efficiently. So your sodium levels will typically drop and you'll crave more sodium. So having the crunch and the saltiness in celery, the natural sodium in celery, really helps me. And it, as crazy as it sounds that I'm substituting celery for potato chips, it works for me. And I will use salsa as a dip. So I have my celery and my salsa, and that fulfills a need for my body. And maybe I'll add a little extra salt to the next meal that I'm having to also boost my sodium levels. But I'm trying to illustrate to you that your body is wise and it will tell you what you need, but you need to be a lot of times working with somebody that can help you to identify that, so that you're not always going down the path that seems the easiest, right? Your body knows that those potato chips are going to give you a hit of sodium that you need. So it's going to be telling you, we want to have those potato chips. Another thing to do is to check in mindfully with, am I really enjoying this food? What would make it better? Like a lot of times, so I'm going to use a Twinkie as an example. How many of you loved, oh, I'm already getting them. How many of you loved Twinkies when you were little, and you think of them in a positive way, like, oh, Twinkies, I remember Twinkies. Yes. Yep. So many of you, right? Like Twinkies have this weird association. Yet, have any of you eaten one as an adult? Okay. Yeah, a lot of you are saying very disappointing. Yeah. They're actually really gross, right? Um, so if we pay attention, like just because your body was craving something, again, doesn't mean that that's necessarily what it wanted. And if you really register whether or not you're enjoying it, okay, is this really good? Is this really what I expected? Is it what I wanted? What would make it better? If it's not going to get better, right? And it just seems silly to even try, stop eating it, right? And have those conversations. Give yourself permission to stop. A lot of times people are, it's so ingrained that, like, clean your plate and all that. So, excuse me, pay attention. Make your mealtime special. So you should really celebrate eating. I know it happens 3 times a day, so maybe not for every meal, but eat at the table. Don't make it a just something, a chore that you have to do. Really celebrate it. Food is meant to be enjoyed, and it's to nourish you, and it should be kind of like a celebratory ceremony, right? Like you should be making a big deal about it. Eat at a table, sit down, plate it like it's a gourmet meal. Even if you're eating off paper plates, make it look fancy and something desirable. Invite your family to cook with you, even if that's virtually. So I have, some of you may know, I have 4 adult children that live in various places around the country. And once a month, we all get together and we cook virtually together and we eat. And maybe we'll do like a fun activity or game or something after that. But that is our together time. And, since we can't have Sunday family meals, families used to do that. So this is a great option, and it really helps connect people. So make it fun. Savor your food, slow down. Your brain needs to register that you're eating. All of these tricks, making mealtime special, slowing it down, plating it nicely, sitting down at the table. These are all things that your brain has as cues that you are eating, and it's registering it, and you will feel full and more satisfied with less food, and it will actually understand that you ate. A lot of times if we eat too quickly, or we're not mindful, paying attention to our eating, then there's kind of like a disconnect, and we might actually still be getting hunger cues just because we didn't make the connection. Okay, so get support in your transition to intuitive eating. Like I mentioned, partner with a nutritionist. Doesn't have to be me. It can be me. You can access me through the university or directly through email, or somebody else. At the very least, if you're not ready for that big a step to work with a professional, then I would tell you have to have support. Invite your friends and families to do this alongside you. You can learn together. You can support one another, encourage one another, be accountable to one another. You can join our class if you don't want to work one-on-one with me. I am going to be offering, because this was really popular series, I'm going to be offering a class for intuitive eating. And we also are putting our ebook up for sale. You can buy them purchase those together or separately if you just want the ebook for support, or if you just want the class for support, whichever, you can get either one of those. And I will be taking just a few. I don't have a lot of room in my schedule right now, so it would probably just be like, honestly, like 2 people. And it's usually like a 3 to 6 month process. So just a couple people at a time so that I can devote the time and energy that they deserve. And if you would like to be one of those people, you can just let me know. And if I still have spaces available, I'd be happy to work with you. All right, so that's it for our series. I really hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope I'll see you in the intuitive eating course or one-on-one. Pop on over to the, any of the cooking classes and put something in the comments for me to know you're there. I love to see when people have come and tried stuff. So if you could do that and share this with other people. This whole series was free because I really believe that this is important information and I want it to get in front of people. So if you could share it with everyone that you think would find it useful, it would be greatly appreciated. And again, let me know in the comments what you found helpful, what you thought was lacking from this, because we can always do more webinars. I'm happy to do that if there's something that you would like to dive into further. Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of comments about how impactful this was. All right. A lot of you are already saying that you want to work with me. That's awesome. We will connect offline. I will see what I can work out in my schedule, because already I see that there's quite a few. I would encourage you to, perhaps the course is a good starting point. I think it'll be a lot like working one-on-one, but you won't get the obviously the individual attention, but you will get a lot of good background information and support from others. Sometimes the group setting is really, really great too. All right. I wish you guys all the best. I'm sorry that this one took so much longer than the others, but I have, obviously this is my little specialty area, nutrition, and I wanted to make sure I got you as much of the information as possible. And I really, really appreciate all of you for being here. And for those of you watching the replay, it's been amazing. I'm so glad that you're taking it in. All right. And I will see you all soon, I hope. Good night.